and feed me the water.
Okay. Period. You see me.
Let me get out.
Who house is this? Damn! Oh shit.
The house was full of music and laughter that night. People danced in the living room, drinks in their hands, voices loud over the speakers. It was supposed to be a happy party, just a way to end the long week. Then the screaming started. Outside, in the middle of the street, a young woman was on the ground. Her dress was torn. Her hair was pulled from her head in clumps. Her hands clawed at the air as she tried to fight back, but there were too many of them. For gunshots broke through the night. 1, 2, 3, 4. When it was over, she didn't get back up. Her body lay still under the streetlight. Blood ran across the cracked pavement, soaking into the dust. The party was silent now. Everyone stared. Some ran. Others pulled out their phones, recording as the air grew heavy and cold. Nobody knew why it happened so fast. Nobody knew why Dylan Black had a gun in his hand. But in that moment, one thing was clear. Felita Bailey was gone. And the truth about what really happened at that house would shake the entire city. It started as a night of music and laughter in Amarillo, Texas. A young woman, vibrant, full of life, walked into a house party with no idea she'd never walk out alive. Within minutes, the sound of gunfire shattered the air. When it was over, a mother's only child was gone, and a community was left asking, why? But the darkness surrounding this case didn't end with her death. The lies, the cover-ups, the cold silence from those sworn to protect her. As we peel back the layers of this haunting story, one question remains. Was Felita Bailey's murder just the beginning of something far more sinister? Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. These are the stories they don't want you to hear, and together, we'll make sure no one ever forgets them.
Look at the ice that crap. I'm a dog in my wolf, barking nothing but freedom.
Felita June Bailey was the kind of girl who made people smile without even trying. Her laugh was soft but full of life, and her eyes lit up like the sun every time she spoke about her dreams. She grew up in Texas, helping her mother run their small catering business. Together, they cooked for weddings, birthdays, and church events. People loved them, not just for the food, but because Felita made every customer feel special. She was only 25, but had big plans. She wanted to become a dental hygienist. She had already started classes and worked hard every single day. She told her mother, "Once I finish, we'll have more than enough. We'll never worry about bills again." Felita loved her family more than anything. She would spend her weekends laughing with her cousins, helping her grandmother with chores, or staying up late to talk with her mom about life. She didn't go out much. She wasn't into wild parties or hanging around strangers. But on this warm August night in Amarillo, her cousins invited her to a small get-together at a house on Avondale Street. Just a few friends, they said. It'll be fun. Felita didn't know many people in Amarillo. She had only moved back a few months ago to finish school and spend more time with her grandmother. But she trusted her family. She wanted to relax for once. So she put on a simple dress, tied her hair up, and said yes. She didn't know that her life would end there. At that house, music and laughter waited. But so did anger, jealousy, and danger. By the time the sun came up, Felita's name would be in the news. Her mother would be screaming for answers. And the city of Amarillo would be left asking, how could this happen? The house on Avondale Street was quiet earlier that evening. The smell of fried food drifted from the kitchen as a small group of friends sat in the living room, laughing over old stories. The homeowner had invited just a handful of people after the bar closed at 2 a.m. It wasn't meant to be a big party, just music, drinks, and enough space to unwind. Felita arrived with her cousin. She didn't know anyone there except her family. She stayed close to them, smiling politely when strangers introduced themselves. Her dress was plain but pretty, the kind of outfit that made her look both confident and shy at the same time. At first, the night felt safe. Felita sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, sipping from a plastic cup. She watched her cousin dance and laugh with the others. But then the door opened. One person walked in, then another. Then a wave of people began pouring through the door, faces Felita had never seen before. Loud voices, heavy footsteps, the sound of bottles clinking. Soon the small gathering turned into a crowded house party. Felita's cousin whispered, "I don't know who invited them." The homeowner tried to stay calm. He walked through the house asking people to leave, but the crowd kept growing. Some guests laughed in his face. Others ignored him completely. Among the new arrivals was Dylan Black. He walked in like he owned the place. He was tall, with a hard stare that seemed to follow Felita across the room. People whispered about him. Everyone seemed to know his name. Felita didn't, but she felt it, the way his eyes stayed on her too long. The way he smirked as he leaned against the wall. Dylan had a reputation. He'd been in trouble before, burglary, assault, probation violations. But that night, no one dared say anything. As the music grew louder, Felita began to feel uneasy. She texted her cousin, "Let's not stay long." But it was already too late. Outside, a few neighbors complained about the noise. No one called the police. Not yet. Inside, Dylan Black made his way across the room. He stopped in front of Felita, leaning down to speak. Whatever he said, Felita shook her head. "No," she said quietly. It wasn't loud enough for the music to stop. It wasn't loud enough for anyone else to hear. But Dylan heard, and he didn't like it.
Oh, they turn these folks' house up.
Let me get out. Let me get out. Let me get out.
Who house is this? Damn! Oh, shit.
The air inside the house had changed. The laughter was gone, replaced by shouting and the sound of glass breaking. Felita's heart pounded as she moved closer to her cousin. The crowd was swelling, bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. Strangers stared at her with cold eyes. And then Dylan Black stepped in front of her. He smelled like cheap liquor and smoke. His eyes locked on hers like a predator sizing up its prey. "You think you're too good for me," he hissed. Felita shook her head and tried to walk away. But Dylan grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her skin. "Let her go," her cousin shouted, pushing Dylan back. The music stopped. Every head in the room turned toward them. Dylan smirked. His friends closed in behind him. Then chaos exploded. Hands grabbed at Felita. They yanked her backward, pulling at her dress. She screamed as nails scratched her arms, as fists slammed into her cousin's ribs. "Leave her alone," he shouted, fighting to reach her. But there were too many of them. Someone punched her cousin in the face. He stumbled, blood pouring from his nose. They dragged him out into the street and kicked him until he couldn't stand. Felita was on the floor now, her hair tangled in Dylan's fist. He slapped her hard across the face, leaving her dazed. And then it happened. The gun came out. For sharp cracks split the night air. Felita felt the first bullet tear into her shoulder. She gasped for air as the second hit her chest. The third and fourth sent her body limp against the floor. The screaming stopped. The house fell silent except for the sound of Dylan's heavy breathing. Blood pooled beneath Felita's body. Her eyes stared blankly at the ceiling. Outside, her cousin crawled across the pavement, dragging his bleeding leg. 911. What's your emergency? Help. They shot her. A girl's been shot. She's not breathing. Where are you? Avondale Street. Please hurry. She's bleeding everywhere. By the time police arrived, the house was almost empty. Bottles were tipped over. Chairs were broken. The floor was slick with spilled drinks and blood. Felita was lying in the corner, her torn dress clinging to her body. A paramedic pressed hard against the wounds, shouting at her to stay with him. Her cousin sat on the curb outside, holding his leg and crying. She said no to him. He whispered. That's all she did. She said no. At the hospital, doctors worked for hours, but the bullets had done too much damage. At 3:17 a.m., Felita Bailey was pronounced dead. Neighbors woke to the sound of sirens and flashing lights. News crews arrived before sunrise. A 25-year-old woman was gunned down during a house party in Amarillo last night, one reporter said, standing near the yellow police tape. Police have identified a suspect, 22-year-old Dylan Black. But Dylan's story didn't match the others. He said he wasn't even in the room when the shots were fired. He said someone else had the gun. Yet hours later, police found the clothes he was wearing that night and the gun hidden at a house across town. Still, when Felita's mother called the police for answers, no one could tell her why Dylan Black was already back on the streets. The morning after the shooting, Avondale Street felt like the devil himself just came down. The house that had been loud and full of bodies hours earlier now sat silent, wrapped in yellow tape. Empty cups littered the front yard. A single sneaker lay by the sidewalk like it had been left behind in a rush. Inside, the air still carried the sharp smell of alcohol and gunpowder. The floor was sticky from spilled drinks and blood. A detective crouched near the living room carpet, staring at the dark stain where Felita's body had been. 4 shell casings sat in a neat row now, each marked with a yellow evidence card. He rubbed his forehead. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. A young woman, 25 years old, her life wiped out over nothing. At the hospital, Odessa Bailey stood frozen in the hallway. Her phone had rung at 3:30 a.m. It wasn't the police, it was a cousin. They shot Felita. Odessa dropped her coffee mug. It shattered across the kitchen floor, but she didn't even notice. Her hands were trembling so hard she could barely hold the steering wheel as she drove to Amarillo. Now, a nurse with tired eyes stood in front of her. "I'm sorry, we did everything we could." Odessa didn't hear the rest. Her knees buckled. She slid to the floor, wailing like her chest had been ripped open. "That's my baby," she sobbed. "That's my only baby." News spread fast. By sunrise, the story was everywhere. Young woman shot dead during Amarillo house party. Suspect identified as Dylan Black, 22, with prior charges of burglary and assault. People were furious. Strangers on Facebook shared Felita's picture, her wide smile, her bright eyes. Friends posted videos of her laughing at a birthday party weeks before, unaware her life would end so violently. But Odessa couldn't even grieve. She hadn't been allowed to see her daughter's body. When she asked why, no one could give her a straight answer.
I have to do this live for my daughter. I have to do this live so that people can know some of the truths and some of the facts that are dealing with the death of my daughter out here in Amarillo, Texas. For those that don't know, I am the mother of Felita Bailey. That's my only child. She was murdered out here in Amarillo, Texas, on Avondale. August 31st, 2024, my daughter was murdered. It's a lot of things that has been kept out of the public's eye.
At the police station, the investigation began. Witness after witness sat in the small, gray interrogation room. Some spoke softly, afraid to say too much. "It was Dylan," one said. He was mad because she told him no. He pulled her hair, and then, the man choked up, looking down at his hands. Another girl shook her head. Dylan wasn't even inside. He went out to smoke. Somebody else had the gun. The detectives frowned. Too many stories. Too many lies. Meanwhile, Dylan Black sat in another room, his wrists cuffed to the table. He looked calm, almost bored. "I didn't shoot nobody," he said. "I wasn't there when it happened." But his voice cracked slightly when they mentioned Felita's name. "Tell us why your clothes were in a trash bag at your friend's house," one detective asked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "And the gun? We found it under a mattress. Your fingerprints are all over it." Dylan didn't answer. He stared at the wall, jaw tight. Odessa, meanwhile, refused to sit still. She went live on Facebook from her car. "My daughter's name was Felita June Bailey," she said, her voice shaking. "She was kind. She had dreams. She wanted to be a dental hygienist. And they tore her from me." Her words turned sharp. "And the Amarillo Police Department? They don't care. They didn't call me to say my daughter was dead. I found out on the news." Thousands of people watched as tears streamed down her face. They're protecting Dylan Black because he's white. If Felita had been white, they would have arrested him already. The video went viral. That night, people gathered on Avondale Street for a candlelight vigil. Pink and white balloons floated into the sky. A little girl placed a single rose on the doorstep of the house where Felita had been killed. Odessa stood in the center of the crowd, clutching a photo of her daughter. "She was my everything," she said softly. "And I won't rest until there's justice." Back at the station, the detectives were under pressure. Forensics came back with results. The gun matched the bullets that killed Felita. Dylan's fingerprints were there too, but smudges from other hands raised new questions. The district attorney hesitated. "It's not enough yet. We can't hold him." So they let Dylan go. Odessa found out from a neighbor. "They let him out," the woman said. "I saw him walking down the street." Odessa felt her stomach twist. She couldn't breathe. "They let him out?" she whispered. "The boy who murdered my baby?" She called the lead detective. "Why didn't you warn me?" she demanded. His answer made her feel like screaming. "We're still gathering evidence. There's nothing we can do right now." For weeks, Odessa posted Felita's picture everywhere. On street corners, on Facebook, on Twitter. "Please," she begged. "If you saw anything that night, speak up. Don't let them bury my daughter's story." Finally, a breakthrough came. A young man came forward. He walked into the station shaking. "I saw it happen," he said. "I saw Dylan pull the trigger. He said he'd kill me if I ever told anyone. But I can't keep this secret anymore." The detectives leaned forward. "Tell us everything." That same night, police got a tip about Dylan's whereabouts. He wasn't at his mother's house anymore. He was hiding out in a small home in bushland. When officers arrived, they found him trying to sneak out the back door. "Freeze!" they shouted. Dylan stopped. His hands went up slowly. They dragged him to the squad car as neighbors watched from their porches. And for the first time in weeks, Odessa felt like she could breathe again. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear the hum of the air conditioner. Every seat was filled. Reporters tapped their pens nervously. Cameras clicked when Dylan Black was led in wearing a suit and cuffs, his head down like a boy caught stealing. Odessa Bailey sat in the front row. Her hands gripped Felita's favorite necklace so tight it left deep marks in her palm. Her face was stone, but her eyes burned with rage and sorrow. She whispered under her breath, "That's him. That's the one who took my baby." The trial opened with the prosecutor's voice slicing through the air. "This is not a case of mistaken identity," he said firmly. "This is a case of a young woman, Felita Bailey, who was assaulted and murdered in cold blood because she said one word, no." He walked to the jury, holding up Felita's photo. She was 25. She had dreams. She had a family. And she is dead because Dylan Black couldn't take rejection. The defense fired back. "There is no direct evidence tying my client to the shooting," his lawyer said. "This was a chaotic house party with over 40 people. The witnesses are confused. The videos are unclear. Dylan Black is not a killer." But Odessa felt her stomach churn as the lawyer spoke. "Not a killer? Then why is my daughter in the ground?" The witnesses began to testify. A young woman stood shaking, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw him grab Felita's arm. She told him to stop. He didn't. He got mad and yanked her hair so hard she fell to the floor. She wiped her eyes. Then he pulled out a gun." "Did you see him fire?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes. He shot her." When Felita's cousin came to the stand, he walked slowly, leaning on a cane. The scars on his face told the story before he even opened his mouth. "They jumped us," he said, his voice cracking. "It was just me and Felita against all of them. I tried to protect her. But Dylan pulled the gun." "Are you certain?" the prosecutor pressed. The cousin looked at Dylan and nodded. "I'll never forget his face." The defense tried to poke holes in their stories. "Are you sure it wasn't someone else?" the lawyer asked the cousin. "It was him," he said firmly. "I'll say it again. It was Dylan." Then came the prosecution's surprise. Text messages from Dylan to his friend hours after the shooting. "They won't find nothing on me. I'm good." The courtroom gasped. Odessa gripped the bench so tight her knuckles turned white. Finally, Dylan took the stand. He stared straight ahead, his voice cold. "I didn't kill nobody," he said. "I wasn't even inside the house when it happened." But when the prosecutor held up photos of Felita's torn dress and bruised body, his calm broke. "Look at what you did," the prosecutor shouted. "You destroyed her. You destroyed her family." Dylan's lips trembled. He turned to the jury, eyes wide. I didn't mean for this to happen," he whispered. Closing arguments came like heavy blows. Felita Bailey was not a fighter, the prosecutor said. She was a dreamer. She wanted to make people smile. Now her mother wakes up every morning knowing she will never see her again. "Don't let Dylan Black walk free," the defense begged the jury. "There is no clear evidence," they argued. "Don't send an innocent man to prison." The jury went out. Hours passed. Odessa sat in the hallway, clutching her daughter's photo. "Please, God," she whispered, "don't let him get away with this." When the jury returned, the air was so tense it felt like the walls might crack. "Have you reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "Yes, Your Honor." The foreman stood. "We find the defendant guilty of murder." Odessa cried out and collapsed into her sister's arms. In the back row, Dylan's mother screamed, "No, he's my baby. He's not a killer." But the judge's voice cut through the chaos. "Dylan Black, for the murder of Felita June Bailey, this court sentences you to life in prison without parole." Outside, the crowd erupted. "Justice for Felita," they chanted, holding candles and photos high in the air. Odessa stood on the courthouse steps, tears streaming down her face. "This won't bring her back," she said softly. "But today my baby finally got her voice back." Felita's story is one that should never have been written. A young woman with dreams, taken too soon, and a mother left to fight for answers she should never have had to demand. But how many more Felitas are out there? How many mothers are still waiting for justice that may never come? What do you think? Was justice truly served? Or did the system fail Felita twice? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you, don't let Felita's light fade away just like that. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that demand to be told. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And share this video to make sure her voice, and the voices of so many others, are never silenced again. Because sometimes, the only way to stop the cycle is to face the darkness together.
Street, August 31st, 2024, my daughter was murdered. It's a lot of things that has been kept out of the public's eye. A lot of people don't know truths that I'm about to bring to you, and the reason why we're fighting so hard, and the reason why legal counsel is being brought about. And y'all please bear with me because this is hard. Not only was my daughter murdered, my daughter was physically. Several young men who attended the party at 1314 Avondale Street. Please keep in mind that my daughter was not raised in Amarillo, Texas. She do not know anyone at that party other than the family that invited her to that party, who do know people at that party. So she's just going out. They're young, 25, 22, they're young, you know, they party still. In the midst of protecting my daughter, my other family member, who is a younger family member, also got injured to the point of they tried to kill him. 2 people. They wasn't even there 10 minutes at those people's. They wasn't there for 10 minutes. 2 people. And the entire house of people jumped on 2 people. My daughter told a young man no. Okay? That's not a lie. That's the truth. Has come forward with this same story. While being rejected, the thug decides to assault physically my daughter. So while my daughter pulls away to defend herself, in comes my other family member. He's protecting her. It's video out there, video proof. The police have it. I have it. It has not been leaked out. My child is physically, I saw my daughter's last moments. My daughter's fighting for her life. Okay? My daughter's dress was torn from her. My daughter's hair was from her scalp. So, as the other family member tries to protect my daughter, and it's a he also ends up pretty much in critical. The police department nor the hospital never notified me of my daughter's death. I pretty much found out through the news. Mind you, I don't live in Amarillo. When I asked why wasn't myself or her father notified, detectives told me, long as they told someone in that emergency room, it was fine. That they owe me nothing, they did not have to tell me my daughter was deceased. My daughter was never identified. My daughter did her identification on her. I did not see my daughter's body until 5 days after she was murdered. Enough time to get rid of any evidence possible to protect Dylan Black and whatever thug helped him to murder my daughter. Because he's also one of the thugs that put his hands on my daughter inside that house. So it's a lot that's not being said. Everyone only knows about the shooting part of it, but no one knows about the assault that happened before the shooting. Can you imagine being a mother and the last moments you see of your child is that your child is fighting for her life, fighting dudes, fighting these thug dudes. I did do another interview on News 7. You can most definitely watch it. It's coming out tonight. The police are not trying to help. They're working more on protecting Dylan because of his ties to them, allegedly. Well, we know the truth. We are seeking legal counsel. So that's most definitely in the make. We do have a GoFundMe up to help us pay for that. My daughter's death will not go in vain. My daughter did not. I'm not going to let Amarillo police push this under the rug like they're planning on doing. The detectives didn't even know my daughter's name. They could not tell me anything about my daughter. Nothing. I showed them a picture of my daughter and they didn't even know who she was. This was days. No detective contacted me. I had to contact APD myself. Then they finally sent detectives about 3-4 days later to speak with me about the death of my daughter. Yet I still yet to see my daughter's body. So much is wrong, so much is at fault, even from the hospital. So it's a lot that you all don't know. And I speak on these type things that happen, and I never in a million years thought this would happen to me. I'm asking people to stand with me, fight with me. If you love me, you most definitely will. Because this is my daughter. That's my only baby. And trust, this is extremely hard for me to talk about. Extremely hard. That's why it took me over 30 days. Because, like, I can't even breathe. Because I have to fight. I have to fight the hospital. I have to fight the police department. I have to fight these thugs that took my baby and think they're going to get away with it. I don't know. I asked the police, why is it I want charges filed against those, all those, it's on video. It's on video of these young dude thugs attacking my baby. It's on video. So when a officer tells you that's hearsay, when that officer has the exact same video, are you going to believe the police department is with you or helping you? You're not going to believe that.